What is up, guys? Pie Muffin here, and we are back with another review. We have just finished Season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, and like I did with Season 1, I'm just going to kind of talk about the stuff I liked, the stuff I didn't like, and the stuff in between with Season 2. Now, I really could have done this video last week, because technically last week's episode 102, was the finale. But I wanted to, because they kind of, not really a cliffhanger, because we knew, everyone was going to come back or whatever. But I did want to kind of see that play out before I made my review to kind of get the finale of the arc. So I'll be talking about everything up to the time skip that they did in today's episode. Because the beginning of the episode happened, then they did the intro, and then after the new intro, there was like a time skip, and I'm really not sure how. I'll talk about that in a different video. Because what I think I'm going to do moving here forward, I'm going to do a review for every episode that comes out until the show ends. And then, who knows, maybe I'll go on to do the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Series as well. But where to start? I'm kind of probably going to be jumping around because we had like 50-something episodes, I believe, in this arc. So there's a lot to kind of go over. So I'll just kind of go over what comes up in my head. First. I guess the first thing to obviously go over is some of, the new characters. So let's go over Soulburner for once. Takaru. I liked his character arc. I thought it was really good. I like that they didn't make him, because I was worried when I first saw him, obviously the original three heroes in Season 1 were Playmaker, it was Go Onizuka, and Blue Angel. Who has gone through a big change. So I was worried when I saw Soulburner for the start of the second season. Just when I saw him in the intro, I was like, oh, I didn't want this to be a Jesse Anderson / Johan sort of thing like in GX, because, it was Jesse and Cyrus were best friends, but then Jaden and Cyrus. I think I said Jesse and Cyrus. Jaden and Cyrus were best friends, but then when Jesse came along, Cyrus got pretty much pushed out of the picture for the most part. And I really wasn't fond of that. So I'm glad that they didn't do that here too much. They kind of did. But essentially with his character, it was pretty cool. He obviously a lost incident victim. We knew we were going to see some of the other ones, which by the end of the season, we know who they all were. His story was probably, I'd say, I don't want to say the most tragic of all the lost incident victims, because there is one that loses their life. But his is pretty tragic for those who stay alive, because obviously his parents wanted to search for him while he was gone all that time, and they actually died searching for him. Which is very saddening, which also brings up a good character arc between him when he finally meets Revolver. Obviously he blames Revolver for anything, even though Revolver was a kid at the time. So it's not like Revolver could have done anything about that situation. So his character arc was good. I like that his personality kind of mimicked his persona, I guess is a good word for it. Obviously his name is Soulburner, and he is a hot-headed guy that loses his handle pretty quickly. And you see that on multiple occasions in this season. And, his AI Flame obviously is someone who always had to kind of cool him down in a way, or try to, as much as he could. Blue Angel went through a character development arc in this season as well. I still am not fond of how they handled her by the end, because it still kind of felt like, yes, she got a win against Haru, but then, obviously everyone had to lose to Bowman until Playmaker won. But, so she went from Blue Angel to Blue Girl when she was going incognito with Ghost Girl, and then she went from Blue Girl to Blue Maiden, which I guess is probably going to stick. I'm hoping that because, it's cool that she likes to change her persona so often, but, because it shows her character development. But I think she can stay Blue Maiden, because I think this is kind of the pinnacle of where she's supposed to be. So her character arc was nice. I did like how Akira started to kind of let her do her own thing after a while. Eventually, he kind of realized, okay, she's not someone that needs to be protected anymore. She's her own duelist. She's her own person. She can do what she wants. Of course, he's still worried about her and did anything he could to help her, but for the most part, he wasn't trying to kind of lock her in this protective cage and just keep her where he could keep her safe. Ghost Girl, I mean, it's always great to see Ghost Girl, but it's not, I guess she kind of had character development from season 1, because obviously in season 1, for the most part, she kind of did things for herself. But I feel like in season 2, she was more of a kind of big sister type role for Aoi Zaizen, aka Blue Angel, in case you've forgotten. But also, I liked her dynamic. We obviously finally met her brother, Blood Shepherd. And the whole character arc between Ghost Girl and him was pretty nice, because it's like he tries to do things a very kind of cold way, whereas she started to warm up to things. Obviously, they're not related by blood fully. They are step siblings. So that whole like little story arc was kind of nice to see. Obviously, he had resentment for his own father for essentially waltzing out on his mother, and obviously went to the family to where obviously Ghost Girl was born from. So that dynamic was pretty cool. To kind of go over the villains real quick, we had Lightning, we had Windy. Windy is a interesting case, and it's really kind of messed up with what happened to Windy, because you find out later on that Windy was actually, his code as an AI was messed with by Lightning, essentially, so that he would basically obey Lightning. Lightning's whole thing was he was jealous because every kind of route he would go through in life, it would bring the other Ignises down, so he was like the toxic inferior one. So if they just cut him out of the picture, all the other Ignises could have lived perfectly normal lives, but obviously that wasn't the case, because Lightning was like over jealous and trying to make things so it would work out for him. Bowman was a good villain, but it was kind of weird at times, obviously. His mind constantly being messed with. At first, he didn't know who he was, and then the second time Playmaker dueled him, he was like, I am actually the real you. You are an AI that was spurred from blah, 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 blah. Which obviously wasn't the case. It was just to kind of rattle Playmaker. And then obviously he just came to realize he is the AI that essentially wants to rule over this world, because, the world is filled with chaos and fighting and stuff, and, if he rules over the humans, if AI rule, then there will be no chaos, everyone will be of one mind, typical Terminator type stuff. But anyways, moving on to who else is there to talk about? Obviously we had Aqua and Earth. What happened to Earth was Earth obviously had this love for Aqua as an AI. And the way he got killed off was very sad. We see him get essentially dissected at Soul Corporation. Obviously, I'm trying to remember everyone's Ignis. So Windy was Spectre's Ignis, I believe. I'm trying to remember. Yes. No. Okay. I had that completely wrong. Earth was Spectre's Ignis. So when Earth died, Spectre felt that. I forgot. Windy killed his own partner. Even though obviously it wasn't Windy's fault, it was Lightning's fault. It was a no-named lost incident victim whose car was forced to crash, and essentially the character got killed, and that was all Windy's fault. Obviously Lightning was created from Jin Kusanagi, which that kid, I swear, if he gets bullied in season 3, I'm going to be tired of it, because he does not deserve that. And then Aqua was obviously tied to, well, not obviously, I mean, if you watch the season, obviously, was tied to Aoi's friend Miyu. So in the end, Aqua ended up being Aoi Zaizen, aka Blue Angel's AI for the end of the season, because obviously Miyu doesn't have it doesn't have consciousness to even do anything. Um, let's talk about Go Onizuka. His arc was, I don't really know how I feel about his arc. His arc kind of bothered me because obviously season 1, he was the typical like, oh, he wants to be the idol for all the kids at his orphanage and as well as kids all around the world. He had this kind of macho wrestler kind of feel about him. Then we get to season 2. He's working as a bounty hunter, essentially, for Soul Corporation to take down Playmaker. And as the season goes on, Go Onizuka has an AI implanted in his brain, and he goes completely psycho, thinking he's like God. So that was kind of weird. Obviously, you had the duel between him and Soulburner. Soulburner looked up to Go Onizuka. Go Onizuka kind of lost a part of himself. All he really was focused on was defeat Playmaker. That's all he cared about. Until obviously Playmaker does defeat him. Because Go Onizuka beat Earth in a duel. And Earth gets assimilated into Go Onizuka, essentially. And then Go Onizuka loses to Playmaker, and you can tell by the end that his mind was so messed up, he was just crying for help. You see him cry out to Playmaker. And that's all we saw for the rest of the season. I was really hoping that Go Onizuka would resurface, maybe he got some help. Maybe he would be back to normal. And then by the end of the season, when they went to beat Bowman and everyone, that Go Onizuka would show up and be like, all right, guys, I'm here to help. But there was no case of that whatsoever. So I'm hoping... he's going to be in Season 3, because if you watch the new intro and stuff, you see him in there. He is dueling again. He looks more normal. He's still wearing his outfit from Season 2, but he's not, like, skinny and looking psychotic like he was. Like, he looks like Go Onizuka again. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him moving forward. The relationship between Playmaker and I thought was great, the kind of development they had there. Obviously, in most of Season 1, Playmaker just saw him as kind of like a tool and a hostage, and then at the end of Season 1, he's like, all right, you can go, you're free, you've done your job, and they kind of had this kind of bonding partner relationship. And in Season 2, that continued to develop. Obviously, Playmaker became way more fond of I than ever before. That's why when everything was said and done, he was like happy to have I there. But I'll talk about the future of I in my review video that'll probably come out tomorrow. Obviously the Knights of Hanoi. Great to see them back again. I like Revolver's design in Season 2 much more than Season 1. Season 1, I hated his design for Revolver when he was in VRAINS. But his Season 2 look is very good. It looks like they're keeping that for Season 3, which is cool. His character development is pretty crazy. Now, it's kind of confusing, especially with the start of Season 3, with how he kind of... I keep wanting to talk about Season 3, but I gotta save that stuff. So, obviously, his whole goal is to defeat all AIs, just destroy them from existence so humanity can be in peace. In his mind, there should be nothing above humanity. Humanity should be the ones at the top of the food chain, essentially, and there shouldn't be anyone controlling them. But his character development was interesting because as he had to team up, because obviously Playmaker's team and Revolver's team had a common enemy this season, so there were a lot of instances where they would have to work together. And by the end of it, what was great was Revolver even acknowledged the Dark Ignis, I, as his name. Like, he called him I as he was dying, and, he kind of recollected that he remembers being, in a field of grass like this when he was younger, when there were no worries, and he misses that. He wishes he could go back to that. But, it was a great character development because you really got to see Revolver soften up a bit. Even in the instance where Soulburner was so angry at Revolver, Revolver didn't put up a fight. Revolver was the kind of guy in Season 1 who would have just destroyed Soulburner for even just, like, looking at him funny. But he actually was going to let Soulburner defeat him just to satisfy Soulburner's ego because he knew that there was a bigger fight to be fought. So it'll be interesting to see where that kind of goes in Season 3. Spectre, It was cool to see him there, but, there wasn't really too much to do with Spectre. I think he had one duel in the entire season, maybe two. So, it was cool to see him duel, but there's not really much to develop with him. We know his story, we know his motivations, all that stuff. Obviously the other Knights of Hanoi are just kind of computer people now. They did their job. But let's talk about Kusanagi. Obviously fans picked up from the intro, like very early on when the intro first came out for Season 2, that Kusanagi may betray Playmaker. And that ended up being the case. Obviously, Lightning used Jin as a hostage, essentially, and was like, if you don't defeat Playmaker, I'm going to destroy your brother's consciousness. So Kusanagi, he knew Playmaker was going to win going into the duel. He wasn't going to hold back against Playmaker, so if Playmaker chose not to fight back, Kusanagi would have won, because he's not going to not do what he has to do for his brother. But Playmaker was able to go through and actually win the duel, but you could tell how heartbreaking that was, because, that's like Playmaker's, like, I don't know if you would call him like an older brother or even like a father figure, but that is definitely what that is for Playmaker himself. So the whole, like, end of this season was just one heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak for Playmaker, seeing everyone he cares about go down, and just seeing the anger rise from that. And by the end, I sacrificed himself for Playmaker, which obviously didn't last too long like it did in Season 1. But it is nice to see how Playmaker really does care about a lot of people now. Because Playmaker was this kind of character in Season 1 where he didn't really care about too many people. He just wanted his revenge against the Knights of Hanoi, and he would do whatever. And that becomes a main plot point. Like, he brings that up to, other characters. He tells Revolver, don't be fixated on revenge. Don't be fixated on this, because that's how I was, and it didn't get me anywhere. I'd say the other cool thing, speaking of revenge, was that you find out that Lightning was the one who actually poisoned Dr. Kogami, aka Revolver's father. So it was really cool to see kind of Revolver's reaction to that, because obviously he just assumed, his father died. So Lightning didn't even have to bring that up, which is crazy. And obviously the season pretty much ends. All the AIs besides I are gone. They have been destroyed. Well, they were absorbed into Bowman, and then when Bowman died, the AIs themselves were gone. So yeah, that's pretty much my essential thoughts on Season 2. I did like a lot of stuff. Obviously, there's, like I said, with the issues with Go and Izuka are big issues. I honestly, Queen, I did not like Queen. I didn't like how she was just like, all right, I'm going to use whoever I have to use to get the Ignises, but she became irrelevant after a pretty quick point. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of Season 2. Like I said, I will have my episode 103 review out probably tomorrow, where I will talk about just kind of my thoughts, because there is a lot to kind of talk about, just based on... It was mainly a recap episode, but there was some stuff that there needs to be talked about. But anyways, guys, don't forget to subscribe for more if you're new to the channel. I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone.